Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arthur Murray Lifestyle Series. I'm Victoria Regan, the Global Ambassador for Arthur Murray International. Most of our episodes have featured our franchisees, but now we have the opportunity to feature traveling consultants and other amazing personalities that make our company so successful. Today, I have a good friend, Michelle Berry, who is not only a traveling consultant, a former champion, but also a former franchisee. Thank you, Michelle,
Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
Very exciting to let everyone know about your credentials. They've seen you on the floor, they've seen you travel to studios, but let's talk about your championship credentials.
Absolutely. So I started dancing when I was 5 years of age in Ireland, in Dublin. I had two sisters who danced as well. And straight away, after a couple of months, went on to win the All-Ireland Under-6, then went to youth, went to live in London, and from there became Open British Rising Star Champion, and also won the European, many amateur titles as well, IDSF. So yeah, a very, very nice time.
Great experience, and just to mention a few, yes. And not everyone's known about that. And your sister's Lorraine.
Yes.
So she's also a former champion, world champion. And let's move forward then to how you connected with Arthur Murray's, because of course that's very important for everyone watching to know that you went from championship and ended up at Arthur Murray's.
Yeah, this is an amazing story because we were living in Italy at the time, and it was during the years 2000 to 2007. And while we were there, Augusto gave us a call because one of his judges, or three of his judges, actually didn't turn up. And he was, I think it was the beginning of Ciao Amore, could be wrong, maybe a showcase. And he said, would you be willing to come down for the weekend to help us? And we were like, sure. So we went down and we just had the best time. We were introduced to this amazing world of friendliness, of fun, coming from the competitive world, which is like, tunnel vision, everybody wants to win, a little bit cutthroat at times.
Slightly.
Yeah. So we just decided that we really wanted to be involved with that. And of course, we were already very close with John Kimmins. And that's how the journey started.
So you knew John Kimmins. Is that then your discussion with him that had you moved to the US?
So not long after, John then got in touch with us, and we had dinner together, and he offered us the opportunity of coming to the US. And we'd already been traveling for going to the different studios and coaching, which we love. So we were spending more time in the US, and then we're going back to Italy for like a vacation. And once he planted that seed, we were right onto it. We got our attorney and green cards, and visa first and then green cards. And it happened very, very quickly, but very exciting.
And that's lucky because now going from a dancer's mentality, which you had been all your life, you and Scott.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
Your former husband.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about Scott later.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity in Tampa, Florida.
Yes.
So you, Lorraine, and Scott moved to Tampa.
Yes, we did, and that was in 2008, and we opened the studio on June 16th, and Scott and I had gone in, and it was a totally different world. But, it was great in the way we learned so much about business, about people, about working with people, but because before we were just out there on our own dancing, and people would see us and then they would approach us. So it was a total mind shift, but it was so much for the better for us, and we thoroughly enjoyed it.
And you had each other. You weren't alone. I think had you been alone, it would have been even more challenging.
I think so. But I take my hat off to those people who do it every day. They're absolutely fantastic.
Yes. All right, so once you moved there, you opened the studio, you did very well. And of course, I lived in Tampa at the time.
That's right.
So it was a beautifully decorated studio. You all have such elegance and good taste.
Thank you.
Having said that, you stayed open for how long? You stayed as a franchisee?
As a franchisee for exactly 10 years, literally to the date. It was June 16, 2008 to June 16, 2018. Then when we passed it on to the obviously fantastic Lanya Berger. And we wanted the studio to go into good hands because, our circumstances changed quite dramatically. And so we really wanted the studio. It was like a bittersweet, that was our baby. And we really wanted that studio to go into good hands, which it absolutely did.
It did. And again, most people know that Scott had a situation where he passed.
Yes,
and that's really was the game changer, wasn't it? That you wanted to stay open, but it just, I think between you and Lorraine, it felt like it might be time to pass it on.
Yeah, that was the dream was always, the dream was to have, of course, more studios, but you know, life happens, and unfortunately what happened was very sad, but he told me before that, you know, he wanted me to be happy in what I do, and that was then a decision after, you know, so many years of him passing, that we would then let the studio go and let that dream continue with somebody else.
And it did. And so now you're quite happy. You started traveling extensively.
Yes.
And judging. And how's that going for you?
That's going really well. It's something I really enjoy. You know, in life sometimes you have to really sit down and say to yourself, what am I really good at? And I felt that I'm really good at going into studios and helping people and changing their lives through dancing. And I love it. I really love to connect with people as well. And yeah, I'm having a great time. You know, I go away, I do my teaching, and then I come home, have a little time off, and then again.
So in other words, also for everyone watching that feels they want to open a studio, it's not for everyone long term. Potentially you can still try it, but for mainly I think for dancers, very often this is the life, traveling and coaching and being with the family, traveling around the world as you have.
Yes, yes.
And so you found your other soulmate, Thomas. Hi,
yes.
Thomas, who will be watching and admiring you.
Yes, I'm very blessed. You know, I never thought this would happen. And yes, I met Thomas and yeah, got married again, which never expected to do. So, but a true angel sent him to me. I know that for sure. So yes, very, very.
And you're
very
an
grateful.
angel, Thomas. Yes, he's so supportive of having you travel because he works from home and works very hard. So it actually works out well. You're able to travel a lot.
Yes, yeah, and he loves dancing too. You know, he's a computer scientist, so you know, he's always on the computer. And then when the music comes on, Thomas is one of those gentlemen he's very confident. He'll try anything once, you know, and he loves to dance. So that for me is great.
So would you say for people that, again, are looking for a department they can be in the front department, the back department, what advice would you have for any teacher starting out? What level should they go for certifications, for example? What would you advise them?
Yes, well, I mean, this world is so big. It's so amazing. There's so many opportunities here at Arthur Murray's. And, you know, for me coming from the international world it was such an eye-opener, but, you know, an amazing one, a land of opportunities here. And the company is so supportive. There's always someone there you can pick the phone up to, which is the best thing. And everybody wants to help everybody, and that's really lovely. So I would say if there's someone out there who really wants to do well and who really wants to become a good dancer, you know, you have to practice, you have to take your lessons. You have lessons and training in the company as well. There's a wealth of opportunities, a wealth of information. And I'd say go for it. You've nothing to lose because someone will always help you.
Yes, and so it's chance favors the prepared mind in a way. I always think if they don't have a partner, they should practice alone. Would you also
absolutely.
say practice
Yes.
as if you had one in
Yes.
all avenues of it, and then their partner.
Practice is key. You know, for me, it was 6 nights a week and 6 days a week sometimes, you know, where you're constantly practicing. Yeah, you'd have that day off, but sometimes that day may be a competition or you're traveling somewhere. But, you know, it's a passion. It's something that I wanted to do well in. And the more you practice, the better you get.
Well, we're so lucky to have you. I'm
thank
lucky to
you.
have you as a friend. Everybody loves you as a friend, and they love your coaching. Anything that I may have missed? Advice or, you know, what you're doing next? Any future goals that you might have?
My goal is constantly just to keep learning. You know, in this world, knowledge is power. And I feel, you know, within the company, within the world, is that you're learning something new every day. Never stop learning. Make sure you have a balance in life, that you're having fun as well as you're working, you know. So I think that was always important as a competitor as well, is that we did have that little bit of time off. And if it's spending time with family or friends or a loved one, it's just making that time for them to balance. It's all about the balance.
And you forced me yesterday to go have a beignet with you. It wasn't really forced, but we did have our time off and our little chat. So thank you. Speaking of good times and spending time with friends, thank you so much, Michelle.
You're very
and now
welcome.
everybody knows Michelle even more. You're the lucky ones.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.